Okay, so hi you guys. This video is gonna be super personal and raw, and I've been wanting to film it for a really long time, but I just didn't really know how to go about it or how exactly to, or what I wanted to say really. So yeah, I wanted to film basically just like kind of like a story time video about my weight loss journey. I know I've posted about phentermine and tips that I had for using it. Obviously phentermine is a part of my weight loss journey, but this is just way more specific to how I got to where I am and everything that happened along the way. So for those of you who don't know, I lost 80 pounds in the past year and a half. It's really, I lost the weight in a year, but it's been almost 2 years now since. So anyway, I started at 250 pounds and am now at 135 pounds. So a lot has happened in that, and before that, leading up to it, everything. So all right, before I even start, I just want to say that this is very personal to me. This isn't going to be the kind of video where I'm like giving you guys tips for weight loss. Everybody, more than likely, anybody who's watching this kind of video, you guys, eat healthy, exercise, drink water, get enough sleep. We know those things, right? Everybody wants like to be able to watch a video that's going to give you some kind of insight that you don't already know and going to give you like the secret tools to weight loss. But the truth is that there isn't any. There's no specific diet. There's no specific tool set. You could get enough sleep, drink all your water, eat healthy, exercise, and still not lose weight. You don't know. Weight loss is so personal, and it's completely about you and what works for you. So this is just how I managed to figure this freaking crazy journey out. So, all right, I have notes because that's who I am. I don't know. So I kind of wanted to start by just talking about my childhood. So I'm gonna add little photos in here and there to give you guys a visual idea. But my whole life, I have been the chubby kid. Like that was my childhood. That's who I was growing up. I was never super into sports. I've never been super athletic. I never had something that I was like really good at, and food was always such a comfort, which was definitely a learned behavior for me. My family would, if we had a bad day, my mom's reaction was to basically prepare like a binge for us, which she probably didn't see it that way at all, but we would load up on chips and dip. We had what was called chip and dip nights, and me and my brother talk about that to this day, and we're like, that's really the starting point of this kind of toxic relationship with food, because we always saw it as a form of comfort. If me and my friend at school had a fight, if there was a boy I liked who didn't like me, that was always my parents' reaction, was to make me feel better with food. And so that became a really innate thing to me, and I carried that into my adult life. And even now I struggle to not want to do that when I'm having a stressful time in my life. So yeah, leading up through my childhood, I was always overweight. And then getting into high school, I was super into boys super early. So I definitely wanted to look good. I definitely cared about what I looked like. It was my absolute number one concern. And I was always a chubby kid, so obviously I had tons of insecurity, and I was not even the slightest bit confident. And so I made this like pact with myself before I started high school. I was like, I'm gonna get so skinny. I'm gonna lose a bunch of weight before high school. And so I would run laps around my neighborhood, and I would probably eat like 1,000 calories a day. I didn't know what my fitness pal was. I wasn't tracking calories. I just was eating what I thought was food that didn't have a lot of calories in it. So like my mom would get us Burger King, and I would get a grilled chicken sandwich and just eat the grilled chicken. And I would basically kill myself with exercise, like random little ab workouts I'd do with like 4 in my bedroom, and then I would go run around the neighborhood. So basically using fitness as a form of punishment rather than a form of empowerment, that it really is. Like, I would be like, you have to work out to be skinny, which is just this really nasty mindset, because in reality you should work out because you can. And okay, but I'm getting off track. The point is that I set this pact that I was gonna lose a bunch of weight before I started high school. I lost like maybe 25 pounds. I definitely was, that was probably the skinniest I had been in my life. I like, here, I'll put a little picture here of my weight at that time. But as soon as I got to a weight that I deemed acceptable, I would just go back to my typical eating habits, like binge eating, like hanging out with my friends. We would eat a bunch of junk food and simple things like that. And obviously the weight started to come back. So I remember feeling really good about myself because I was in like a size 4 jeans, and I thought that that was like super impressive. And like, but it just, I started, obviously I couldn't, those weren't habits that I could sustain. I was never gonna work out in that toxic mindset. I was never gonna eat that little amount of calories and be able to sustain that. So I went right back to a really toxic pattern, and that's kind of where I developed a binge eating disorder, where I would start, because my eating disorder started with binging. So I would plan out these binges with my friends, which made me feel a little bit more comfortable and not so ashamed of doing it, because I had my best friend in high school. She liked to eat just as much as I did, so we would plan out what we were gonna eat that night, and we would sit and eat like huge portions of food, like walk to the gas station and get chips and donuts and Debbie cakes. She loved zebra cakes, so that was like her thing, and I wanted like chips and dip. So we would get all that, and then we would come back to her house and watch TV and just indulge in all this food. So obviously I started gaining weight back and becoming more and more unhappy in my body, and feeling super insecure, super self-conscious about how I looked. I would put a lot of my worth in boys, and actually probably all of my worth in boys, and I made a lot of bad choices, and a lot of the time I would just like determine, like if a boy liked me, I would put value on myself, and if he didn't, I wouldn't. And that kind of continued all through high school. So basically I just completely hated my body. And I don't feel like I've said this, but in high school I did color guard, so it's basically like flags, stuff like that. So I had a little bit of a form of exercise my first 2 years of high school, and after that I decided to quit, and basically I didn't exercise at all. I would go from every other week hating my body, have to diet for a few days, quit, hate my body, diet, and it was just like a cycle. And then I graduated high school and turned 18 and found out I was pregnant. And if anything is gonna cause some weight gain, it's pregnancy. So found out I was pregnant. Basically I just completely let go of the idea that I was ever gonna be happy in my body. I was like, not for me. It's just never gonna happen. Like, I'm just gonna be overweight, and that's just my reality, and that's my life. Like, pregnancy kind of made me just accept that. So any form of even thinking about dieting or exercise was out the window. I would eat whatever I wanted. And I was 18, and so I was scared and going through a lot. And I had just went back to school, so I was starting out as a freshman in college. And so I was doing a lot of my classes online at the time, so basically I would just sleep all day, wake up at night, and binge eat, and do whatever school assignments I did, and then be up all night long watching Netflix, and then do it all over again. And that was basically my whole pregnancy. Like, at the time, my best friend had to try everything just to get me to leave the house, because I legitimately just thought, I felt like I wasn't allowed to be attractive anymore. Pregnancy created this really toxic mindset where I just, like, couldn't find myself attractive at all. Like, I just gave up on that idea. And that kind of continued even postpartum for me, because I, like, came up with this thing in my head that, like, moms couldn't wear certain things and moms couldn't look a certain way. So I kind of just embraced the idea that I was a mom now and it didn't really matter what I looked like. And postpartum is a freaking whirlwind, and it did me dirty. Postpartum was so hard for me, and I went through so much, and tried 100 different things, was diagnosed with postpartum depression, went through a freaking crap ton, and the only comfort that I would have is food. And I would put so much into making sure my daughter was healthy, making sure she was taken care of, making sure she had everything she needed, making sure that she was finding happiness and joy in everything. But I never really at all thought about those things for myself. Like, never was I concerned with what I needed or what I wanted. And I became, which I think a lot of moms go through, it becomes all consuming. You put absolutely everything into your kids, and all of a sudden you don't really know who you are or what you want. And that can be a really scary place to be in. And so I would put her to bed at night, and that was like my form of self-care at the time, or so I thought. That's what I would tell myself in my head. And I would just binge eat and watch TV. And even now, I have such a bad habit, and like I kind of formed like trauma associated with like sitting down and watching television. Like, I almost just like, I can't even allow myself to watch TV in the same way that I used to, because I just associate it so much with my eating disorder that it's like, it creates a really negative place for me. But yeah, so probably the first 2 years of my daughter's life looked that way. I would be with her all day long, which I made a huge error. If there's any moms watching this who are young moms and in college, I highly, highly recommend going to do your classes on campus. I wasn't working at the time. I was a full-time student, so I was focusing on school, and my mom was helping me and supporting me and my daughter at the time. And so I decided that it was best for me and her if I could just be home with her all day. So I did all my classes online, which was a huge mistake, because it just really fed my depression and made things a lot harder for me, because I would spend all day long distracting myself in her, and I allowed my life to be like tunnel vision. Like, I could only see through her eyes, and I completely let myself go and forgot that I was even a human being that had needs. And that kind of super toxic mindset continued, and I just completely gave up on myself. But I developed a time where I was kind of like, I was getting to that point where I was like, you know what, in order for me to be the best mom I can be, I'm gonna have to try and be happy. And coming to that conclusion made me realize that, you know what, if I'm gonna be happy, I'm gonna have to lose some weight, because I absolutely hate my body, hate the way I look. And it got to a point where I couldn't even look at myself without feeling disgusted. So I tried every single diet you can think of in the most toxic possible ways. So I tried the Whole30, I think 3 times, maybe lasted 4 days. Like, honestly, I don't know why I thought I would jump into that one. I don't know. I did keto for a while. I did intermittent fasting. I tried like 4 different juice cleanses, spent so much money on juice cleanses. Like, I don't know why somebody with a binge eating disorder like myself thought that going to just not eating and drinking juice was going to be my fix. I had really unrealistic expectations for myself. And basically, absolutely nothing worked. And I could not for the life of me understand why. And so I just came to the conclusion that weight loss was just too hard. Like, that's what it was. Like, weight loss was just too hard for me. I didn't have that mentality. Like, I wasn't mentally strong enough to do it. Like, that's basically what I told myself. I was like, you're a failure. You do not have what it takes to do this. And that's just what I accepted. And then I started CrossFit. And I don't want to make this a super like, oh my god, CrossFit video, because I know CrossFitters are really bad about doing that. But at the time, my brother, who is one of my favorite people in the whole world, was training really competitively for CrossFit. At the time, he was kind of young, like 17. And he was like 25th in the world for his age division, like almost made it to the CrossFit Games. And I would see him training outside in my garage every single day. And my dad was really into it, but like for me, I was like, I could never do that. Like, what? Like, that's ridiculous. Like, look at me. And my dad would always tell me like, oh, you would love it if you would try it. Like, I'm such a naturally competitive person, but like, it was so far out of my mind. I never thought that I could have the capability, never thought in my wildest dreams. So I look back at this time a lot and I'm like, what got me to go to that first class? Because in my head, like, CrossFit was all these super like fit, like skinny, like 6-pack people, like doing workouts that like I would never be able to do. And so I don't know why, and I tried really hard to understand it and look back on that time and see that pivotal moment for myself, but I don't know what it was. I just showed up one day and I went inside and I did it. And I went to the fundamentals and I felt absolutely stupid. I was like, I look ridiculous. This is ridiculous. Like, why am I here? But I went again. And something about the vibe inside of there, like something about the idea of people showing up to work this hard, it really drew me in. And I was envious of that kind of energy because I had already told myself, like, you're just not mentally strong enough to do hard things. Like, that would, and so being in an environment with people who all are working so hard, it's contagious. And for me, it was so like, it's like, I want to be like that. I want to do that. I want my daughter to see me working that hard. And so, also, super big mistake I made. My first ever actual CrossFit class, I told myself I was going to go to the 5 a.m. class because I was like, oh, no one's going to be at 5 a.m. Everybody goes 5 a.m. So I woke up at 4:30, went to this class, died. I couldn't run the 400 meters if I wanted to at that time. And, but I don't know, I loved it. Like, the second I did it, I loved it. I loved the energy. I loved that everybody was so happy for you, like so proud of you for being there. Especially if you're someone who has not done fitness before, if you're new, and CrossFit people love that. And everybody encouraged me and made me feel so welcomed, and I loved the energy. Like, I just knew 100% that this was where I was supposed to be. And so I started going, and I would go maybe twice a week and like be like awfully sore, which I thought was so cool. Like, I was like, oh my god, I'm so sore from my workouts. Like, and I thought that was like amazing and like so badass. So I became kind of obsessed with that. I still was not actually losing weight. I did CrossFit for maybe a year and a half before I actually started losing weight. So CrossFit for me, like, I would go and work out, but my eating wasn't changing. And in reality, fitness was not the hard part for me. And I know for a lot of people it is, but for me it wasn't. I loved it. So, and I didn't even realize I had this like deep-rooted love. I was never encouraged as a child to do athletics, and one of my biggest regrets, because honestly I could have been so good at so many things, and I think I had so much potential that my parents didn't notice, that I didn't notice in myself. And I think my parents and myself just accepted the fact that that wasn't me, and so I never felt a need to try anything, because in my head I had already, like, I was like, I'm not good enough to do that. I'm not gonna be good at that. Like, I'm just a chubby kid. And so I was never pushed in that way. So I had so much like untapped competitive energy that I didn't even realize was there. And CrossFit completely allowed me to understand it and to use it in a way that I had never been able to do before. And so I think the first thing that really turned a page for me was CrossFit. Like, being in an environment of people like that, it inspired me. But yeah, that was not enough. That was not enough to get me to lose the weight. So like I said, I did a 1.5 years of going to CrossFit, not super consistently. I was going sometimes once a week, sometimes 3 times a week, definitely never more than 3 times a week. So I continued to do that for about a 1.5 years. Now, once that 1.5 years was up, I didn't fully go into detail about my situation with my daughter's father. He was not involved with me at all. Like, we were not in a relationship, and we didn't see him for the first year of my daughter's life. That's a whole other story that I feel like I would never want to tell without him being here with me. So I'm not going to go into full details about that. But after about a 1.5 years of CrossFit, I reached out to him, and me and him kind of reconnected. And I don't even think that he understands what he did. Oh, this is gonna make me emotional. But I don't think that he understands his impact on me. And so, for those, also, just to make it clear, we are now married, just so. But yeah, I reconnected with him about after a 1.5 years of doing CrossFit, and we were not together at the time. He was in a relationship with a whole other girl. And he started seeing me in Holland a lot more, and he would come over every day, help me with Holland. He started forming that relationship with her. They really bonded, and me and him bonded, and he helped me and supported me, and he became my friend before anything else. But I think, and I cannot preach this enough, in order to lose weight, you have to want to be happy for you. And I think it was really confusing to me at the time, because I was like, oh, I'm so lucky. I have this amazing child, and I felt so guilty ever being unhappy or admitting to others how unhappy I was, because she was so amazing, and I never wanted it to seem to anyone or to myself that I ever took that for granted. But in reality, she was amazing. She is amazing, but I didn't feel amazing. I would do everything I needed to do for her, but I never did what I needed to do for me. And I think her dad coming back into my life made me start to see me a little bit more. He made me want to be happy all on my own. Like, it wasn't just about being Holland's mom. So I think those two things did it for me. CrossFit and finding somebody in my life who made me see myself. And those two things made my mindset change. It made me realize that I can't lose weight because I want to be skinny. I can lose weight because I want to be happy. And not because I want to be happy for my child, not because I want to be happy for anybody else, but because I want to be happy for me, because I know that I deserve more. And I think that mindset completely changed the game. And around that time, I had, on a whim, decided that I wanted to try phentermine. Now, I'm not going to preach anybody like, oh, go do phentermine, you'll lose weight. I'm never going to be that person. There's so many cons, there's so many reasons why to not do it. And I knew a bunch of people in my life that had done it. My mom had done it a handful of times in super unhealthy ways. And it's really easy to use it in an unhealthy way. But I decided, like, I think I was maybe a week into phentermine, and I had already lost like 6 pounds. And something clicked in my head. I was like, you know what? All right, I'm here. I am involved in a really positive fitness environment. I now have a tool that can help me. And for me, I had a serious food addiction, so phentermine helped me suppress that in a way that I'm honestly not sure I would have been able to do on my own. But as soon as I felt that feeling, as soon as I wasn't craving food in that super intense way, I knew I could succeed. And so I did it in a super healthy, intentional way, because I knew 100%. I was like, look, this isn't going to be one of those whim things for me. This isn't going to be one of those diets that I've tried that I've failed. I was like, I need to be happy, because I knew 100% that I was not going to get in a relationship with Holland's dad unless I felt good about myself on my own. I never, because my biggest thing in life, and for Holland, for me, for my family, I never wanted to get in a relationship with him unless I knew that it would be one that would be successful and one that was going to be built on real, genuine love and happiness. And I never wanted to ruin that relationship in any way or cause any type of disarray in our family. So I knew I had to be happy before I could even attempt to try that. And that inspired me. It made me want to see what I could do. And so if you want more information on phentermine, you should go watch that video. I basically talk about real ways that I did phentermine in the healthiest way possible for me. And it's some really good tips if anyone is curious about trying it. So I was on phentermine for maybe 4 months, and I lost, I think, I always forget the exact number, maybe like 35, almost 40 pounds on phentermine. And I did it very quickly, which, you know, weight loss is not something that should be done super quickly. I don't recommend that at all, but I did it because I really fell in love with fitness even more during that time. I started not just doing CrossFit, but I started running with I've been blessed to be in a family that loves fitness. So it really bonded me. Me and my dad would meet up like almost every other day and run together. My whole family would all do workouts together. And it was a way for me to spend time with them and feel empowered and to also lose all this weight. And so I worked out a lot. I worked out every single day, and not in a toxic way to where I was like, felt like I had to, or like I was punishing myself or anything, because I legit wanted to, because I loved it, because it made me feel so good about myself and so strong. And those were feelings that I had never felt before. And so I ate healthy foods and I ate enough foods to make sure that I was fueling my body to the amount of fitness that I was doing, and my body responded to that. And I balanced it out. Like, I'm not going to say I was perfect or that, because obviously when you have any type of eating disorder, it's hard. It's hard for me to this day. But the point is that I made sure that I was eating enough, and I didn't punish myself if I wanted a piece of cake or whatever it was. I let myself find pleasure in food, and that helped me not indulge. And then after being on phentermine for 4 months, not binge eating for those 4 months, it was a habit for me. I got off phentermine, and I honestly didn't really even notice a difference when I got off of it, because they had become such habits. And so I just continued what I was doing. And honestly, I can say with complete certainty that I did not struggle getting off it. It wasn't like a switch for me. Like, I stayed in that exact same place. And then I went on to lose 50 more pounds. Yeah, after that. In the next, that was probably a year of losing the ending weight. And during that time, I ate balanced meals. I let myself have the foods that I wanted to have, and that made me not crave binges as much. Like if I wanted Taco Bell, I would eat Taco Bell. I just wouldn't eat freaking 15 tacos. I'd eat two, like a normal person. But in doing that, I was also exercising a ton, and for the most part of my diet was nutrition-based food. So eating 2 tacos from Taco Bell is not going to kill you. But I continued to form those habits, to grow on those habits, to be consistent, which is the only way to lose weight. If you are consistent, you can't just do it for a week and expect to see results, because it won't happen. And that's just the reality. But then I all of a sudden got to a point where I was like, dang, this isn't even about weight loss anymore. Like I got to a place where I'm not gonna say I was happy in my body, because even now I don't necessarily ever just like feel like completely content in my body. It's a challenge that I work on every single day and will probably work on for the rest of my life. But I got to a place where I passed my goal weight. I had gotten to a place where I never thought I could get. I became one of the fittest people at my gym, but when I started, I couldn't even run a mile. And so I started to gain so much more than just weight loss. I started to feel confident and happy, and to see myself for more than just being a mom. I realized that I actually can do whatever I want to do, and that I have actual potential, that I can, if I want something, I can have it. And I think that that was something that I was not taught as a child, and that I never thought for myself. And so I found a lot of empowerment through fitness, and I really, really think that that's possible for anybody. And then I let myself get in a relationship with my daughter's father, and he always asked me, because he had asked me to start dating him 100 times and I had said no. And then I finally got to a point where I was like, all right, I'm ready. I will start dating you if you want to date me. And now we're married. Almost a year and a half later. So I just knew that I had to make sure that I felt good about me, and that I felt good about my life before I started to find comfort in someone else, because then I felt like my relationship would be a crutch, that it would be the determinant of my happiness. And I wanted to make sure that he was just an addition to my happiness and not the sole reason, because I had lived so much of my life with my child being the sole reason of my happiness, and that clearly didn't work. So I know that this video is probably pretty crazy and super long, but it felt really good to tell you guys about it. And I really hope that it could help somebody, if anybody is going through a similar situation as to what I've been going through or what I've been through. Basically, I want to end it with just saying that weight loss is freaking hard. And the only way that you are ever going to be able to successfully lose weight if it becomes about you and only you, and if you have to want to be happy. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Hope it wasn't too crazy. So please like and subscribe, and keep following for more videos, because I want to post a freaking crap ton more about our life and our journey, and see how this goes. So I'll see you guys next time.